A lot of football happened this weekend, and I'm going to talk about it. This is Behind KMA, and you are about to watch the Premier League recap. Shut up. We started at the pesky 12:30 kickoff, where Brentford took on Manchester United. Ruben Amorim's time is limited at Manchester United. We know this, but what we do not know is just how bad they can get before he gets sacked. No Manchester United player looked good on the pitch that day, because what was that shorts and socks combo?
Shut the fuck up in 2024!
But two clinical finishes from Igor Thiago and a dagger from Jensen at the very end of the game was enough to put the Red Devils right back down into the gutters of the bottom half. On to the first of the 3 o'clock kickoffs, and we have to talk about Crystal Palace and Liverpool. Crystal Palace are genuinely an extremely exciting side, and I love watching Oli Glasner ball. Players like Sa, he plays for Wolves, maybe. Players like Sarr, Mateta, and everybody in that midfield is just exciting to watch. Now, realistically, if it wasn't for Alisson, it would have been 5-0 at half-time. He was on absolute smoke, but Crystal Palace were the better team over the 90 minutes, and they got what they deserved in the end. Now, did they deserve to win in that fashion? Maybe not, but over the course of the game, it was a very well-deserved victory for Crystal Palace. If your name is Esteve, 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 if this is you, you had a bad day on Saturday. If my memory serves me correctly, I think he's the first player to score 2 own goals in a Premier League game since Wout Fash for Leicester against Liverpool a few years ago, maybe just after lockdown, if not during lockdown. But Erling Haaland did get his obligatory brace as Manchester City absolutely wiped the floor with Burnley 5-1 at the Etihad. Should Moises Caicedo have been sent off against Brighton? Yeah. Regardless, it was nice to see Chelsea get absolutely packed in by their feeder club. You just thought that Chelsea might actually look like a serious football club when they went 1-0 up, but Brighton found a way. To be completely honest, all of the other games were way more interesting than Bournemouth and Leeds, so I didn't actually watch the highlights of that game. But Semenyo scored, like he normally does, so that's some normalcy. Leeds did get what could be a very important draw, though, as that relegation battle is going to heat up, and they need to stay on top of things. At 5:30pm or 11:30am if you were in Peru at the time, Sunderland got a really good win against Nottingham Forest. Controversial goal from a controversial free kick left Ange Postecoglou giving another interview where he was looking at the ground. But for Sunderland, it just continues their incredible start to the season, and they look like they're going to be a real problem in the Premier League this season. In the biggest example of small club mentality this weekend, João Palhinha removed his t-shirt after scoring an equalising goal against last place Wolves to earn a 1-1 draw in the 8 o'clock fixture. But for a large majority of the game, they were the better side, and it took an absolute wonder strike to get the equaliser, so they can leave with their heads held somewhat high. Unlike Tottenham, after a long start to the season of shooting blanks, Aston Villa went to Dr. Fulham and managed to score 3 goals in 1 game, which was cause for celebration. For Fulham, it's a disappointing result, especially after going 1-0 up against a side who doesn't score very many goals, but for Aston Villa, it was a statement win, and maybe now they can capitalise and take some better form into the rest of the season. Arsenal clinched a last-minute winner after 2 late goals destroyed Newcastle's hopes of a fantastic win at St James's Park. Gabriel and Mikel Merino scored some headers in a terrorismo game from both sides. Nick Voltemata is a scary forward who also bagged himself a fantastic header and is the only man that I've seen in recent history to tower over Gabriel Magalhaes. Realistically, both sets of fans think that there should have been a combined 4 penalties in the game for either side, but if you're not going to give one, don't bother giving any. And Everton took on West Ham United in the Monday Night Football, which as of recording has not happened yet. So here are the 3 available outcomes. Wow, what a great win for Everton. Isn't this player really good? That was a boring draw. Wow, what a great win for West Ham. No, never mind, they're not going to win, are they? So when it comes to the talking points of this weekend's games, I want to first start at Selhurst Park, because as I mentioned earlier, Crystal Palace have been playing some electric stuff under Oliver Glasner. They've already won the FA Cup and the Community Shield, and now have pulled off a huge upset victory over Liverpool, but I'm starting to wonder how much of an upset it really is, because we can start to expect this kind of performance from Palace now, where they attack with a lot of energy and they defend with all hands on deck. The speed at which they attack is really difficult for defenders of any team to cope with, especially Ibrahima Konate, who could hang his head in shame with the performance he put in on Saturday, and it was yet another example of why Crystal Palace are still unbeaten in the Premier League this season, which keeps them as the only one. For Liverpool, it's not the end of the world, because Selhurst Park is a tricky place to go at the best of times, especially when they're playing football as good as they are currently, but they should watch over the shoulder for teams like Arsenal who are coming up very quickly, and 3 drop points, even in September, is still 3 drop points. Probably the second or first most talked about game from the weekend was Arsenal versus Newcastle, and I can see why. There was a lot of talking points. It was quite a crazy game, which we've come to expect recently from St James's Park encounters against big opposition. See Barcelona, see Liverpool, and now see Arsenal. A lot of people criticised Arteta last week for defending so much against City when City themselves were playing 10 men behind the ball, and the equaliser was seen as a full stop rather than a comma in the performance. They didn't smell blood, and they didn't go and chase the game once they got the equaliser. There wasn't much time to do so, but okay. But I understand the sentiment that after 30 minutes, if passing backwards to your fullback isn't working against Manchester City, you should notice that. You should pick up the pace and you should try to play some football around them rather than play to their style and inevitably draw or lose. But Sunday against Newcastle was different. A goal in the 84th minute from Mikel Merino normally would be when Mikel Arteta might shut up shop and try to take a good point from a difficult away ground. But in fact, quite the opposite happened. Martin Odegaard came on, Miles Lewis-Skelly came on, and they attacked the game, smelt blood, and ended up getting their winner, which was quite deserved because it was one of Arsenal's best performances of the season. Do I feel for Newcastle? 100%. Absolutely great performances from Nick Pope especially, and Nick Faltamata, who is a really exciting player. I did think he was going to flop. He looked like £90 million of nothing but lank, but he has been really good, and he's already scored 2 big headers for Newcastle this season. Although Man City did score 5, none of their goals looked entirely convincing, and I do not think they're going to be a serious Premier League title threat this season. They'll get Europe, of course they will. They'll get Champions League very comfortably, but I don't think that they're going to be really close to Liverpool or Arsenal, even by Christmas. I think it's going to be a 2-horse race. For United, the dog days are firmly here, and it is not getting any easier. A Bruno Fernandes missed penalty takes him away from being a reliable penalty taker, as he's now missed 2 this season, and Amorim's days are looking numbered. The players just can't adapt to the system, and I don't see why Amorim is so stuck in doing what is clearly not working. I do understand implementing a system, but you have to look at evidence as well and notice that it's just not going your way. You need to play to the player's strengths at some point. Antoine Semenyo is hard launching his campaign for PFA Player of the Season this season. He has been outstanding and is showing no signs of stopping. He's an incredible player. And I really think that if he doesn't get a big move in January and Bournemouth do manage to keep him, he will go for upwards of 70 million to a gigantic club in the summer. My bet is Real Madrid if they do eventually offload Rodrigo. For our European contingent, Barcelona pulled off a fantastic comeback against Real Sociedad. Atletico Madrid stomped the derby by beating Real 5-2. And Harry Kane broke presumably another 4 or 5 records in the Bundesliga. At least one anyway. This video is the first of the sort of long form recap videos. So if you want me to go ahead and do them for the top 5 leagues or do them for, I can pick one random league per week to look at the fixtures of, I would be more than happy to do that. Let any ideas go to the comments. And for now, this has been Behind KMA. Have an alright day.